Hello, James here. I want to make another video. Man, every time I do that, I wanted to, before I start off, before I make this video, this one's gonna be kind of controversial. And when this, remember that guy, Dilbert, from that created that cartoon Dilbert, in the papers, and it's been a big deal, and how he said he didn't want to. It's okay that he don't want to help out black people no more. Then you have someone like Nick Fuentes on it, the one show that was on, and everybody keep blowing this up over the internet about what was his stance, and Pearl was just sitting there, just Pearly things was just sitting there, and Scott Adams. Okay, his name is Scott Adams, and we'll come back to this video. But I got a message for people, for Scott Adams and the Nick Fuentes of the world, and I got a message for you. And I got in fact, anybody who thinks like Nick Fuentes and Scott Adams, if they come across this video, like I said, it's to the people. Like I said, this don't mean all the people, but the people who think like them. Subconscious, indirect prejudice, and that they tired of it, and they coming out of the closet with this prejudice that one of the people they have odds against is black people. Then they start going down the line of different other groups of people that they don't particularly care for, and so they kind of been out of the closet. So my thing is not to start a revolution. My thing is to solve the answers, and is to help solve the answer. And since you purposely feel comfortable that way, now when you go to these areas where I'm about to show you, it doesn't mean that everybody out there in agreement with that area, but you're going to find some people that probably do, and they can feel comfortable feeling the way they do about different groups of people. And I'm going to do this is going to be in a way that is kind of informational so if you're in the closet racist person, you don't like black people, you don't like Mexicans, you don't like Jewish people, you don't want them living next door to you hardly in mass numbers, and if you don't like gay people, I mean, I'm going to just call it all the way out. You don't want to see no interracial, especially you don't want to see no interracial couples, because you don't want that influence on your children. And we don't have to beat around the bush no more. No, this video is going to be for you. So in fact, it's not to tear at you. This is to kind of give you some information, because if people make you feel uncomfortable with all these human races, is with everybody's human, and you can stay in the closet with your bigotry, and or people who have the same outlook in life. So I'm going to give you some places, and this is from a white male, has a very popular YouTube. His channel, he's very well rounded. He's not like you, but he gives information to anybody he see. But this is for you.
You're more than an IT guy. You are
This is what Dilbert, the Nick Fuentes, and other people like that.
Shop, working out of your apartment, basement, bedroom,
but the guy, he's not a bigot. Who made it? Because he made it for all demographic of people. But just in case you subconsciously, because the statement he was saying, well, I'm Italian and I'm white, so I know that probably he made some innuendo about this girl dating a black guy. But just in case you want to go into a different part of the United States, here's some states for you.
Have you ever wanted to know what the whitest cities in the United States are? If you said yes, today you're going to find out.
2 weeks ago, we did the whitest states in the US, followed a few days later by the blackest states, and I'm going to kind of give you the same intros I did for those videos. Here it goes. A few months ago, I caved to public pressure. I usually avoid race-related videos, but I had so many requests for this one, I figured it was time to do it. People pointed out that it's not just racists that want to know the demographics of a location. People of different races want to know good places to live so they could kind of be amongst their own in some cases. You know, the same type of festivals, maybe the same churches, same foods they're accustomed to. When that was explained to me that way, it made sense, and a few months ago I made the most Asian states followed by the most Hispanic states. Today we do the whitest cities in the US, and in a week or so we'll do the blackest cities. Now, there's some clarification I gotta give you. When I say white, I mean what the US Census considers only white. Yes, that is a category. There's other categories that include Hispanic whites, and that's usually things like Mexican Americans, Puerto Ricans, Cuban Americans, Brazilian Americans. You know, people that are 2 or 3 generations in the United States, their just heritage happens to come from Brazil, Mexico, Cuba, whatever. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Omaha, Nebraska. This shouldn't shock anyone at all. If you've ever been to Omaha, you kind of know. I mean, Omaha's in a state where you can get a hayride any time of the year. In the early days, the Omaha area was the home of the Pawnee and the Sioux Indians. And on July 21st, 1804, Lewis and Clark passed through this area and noted that the territory would be a good area to establish a trading post and possibly a fortified trading post. During the trek west, Mormons established the first non-native settlement in the region at what would become known as Cutler's Park. To give you an idea of the non-Hispanic white thing, if we were gauging that on this one and ranking it by that, they would be about 77% white with Hispanic. But the white only, Omaha, Nebraska is 66.8% white. Number 9, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Don't worry, this entire list just isn't Middle America. But Fort Wayne is definitely Middle America, and it is definitely white. The actual fort that was here, called Fort Wayne, was built in 1794 by the United States Army under the direction of American Revolutionary War General Anthony Wayne. So they decided to name the place after him. Years later, Fort Wayne became a main part of the Pennsylvania Railroad and soon became known as Altoona of the West. By the late 1800s, Fort Wayne had really started to grow, with the railroad dropping off European immigrants that were just pouring out of the East Coast. They're all looking for jobs. Back in the day, farms needed a lot of people. These days, 67.8% of the population of Fort Wayne, Indiana is white. Number 8, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Yeah, I could see this one. I'm not surprised about this one at all. Been years since I lived in Colorado Springs, but back 20 or so years ago, it was so white the number 1 condiment was mild salsa. And it really doesn't look like much has changed. 68.7% of Colorado Springs population is considered white. Number 7, Gilbert, Arizona. Another one that's not a shocker. In my experience, just about any city in Arizona wouldn't be a shocker if they showed up on this list. Every time I've been to Gilbert, Arizona, I get the vibe that the number 1 concern in this city is getting a good seat at some early bird special restaurant. I like Gilbert though. Gilbert's a really nice Arizona town. I'm not a big desert person, but Gilbert's a nice place to live, and they got a really cool water tower in town. 69.7% of Gilbert, Arizona's residents are identified as white. Number 6, Portland, Oregon. I have to admit, I'm a little surprised at this one. I knew they'd be close. I didn't think Portland would make it into the top 10 for the whitest cities in the United States. Portland, Maine, 100%, but they're really not big enough. That's one thing I should have mentioned at the beginning. We are only including the top 100 most populated cities. So I'm sure you could find some little towns in Vermont that are rocking a 90%, but yeah, we're looking at bigger cities. If you know the history of Oregon, this probably won't surprise you because they've got kind of a racist past. I mean, they had things in their constitution on it only being a white state. That's true. Oregon began as a whites-only state through a series of black exclusionary laws that were designed to discourage black Americans from living here. I mean, in 1859, they put a thing in the Constitution that outlawed blacks from owning property. Now, that's the whole state of Oregon, and we're focusing on cities, but Portland is Oregon's largest city. Those things obviously have been taken out of Oregon's constitution, but that definitely slowed the migration of non-white people into Oregon. These days, about 70.5% of Portland, Oregon's population is identified as white. Number 5, Madison, Wisconsin. This one is not a surprise at all. I guess the only surprise for me as someone who's been here several times is they're not higher on the list. I was doing a video on Milwaukee, Wisconsin a few years back, and I came across one guy's video he's an African American guy, and he said, if you're moving to Wisconsin and you're black, you just go to Milwaukee. No place else. And he was joking, he's all, them's the rules. I thought that was pretty funny. But in the early days of Settlers 2, the Madison area, it was Germans, Dutch, Swiss, a lot of Irish, and Scandinavian immigrants. These days, 73.9% of Madison, Wisconsin's population is identified as white. Number 4, Lincoln, Nebraska. Yes, here we are with Nebraska again, in their big city of Lincoln. And when I say big city, I'm joking. Their population is under 300,000. Their whole metro area is only 342,000. So for Nebraska, that's a big city. For California, that's a town. Lincoln's a pretty interesting city that just kind of sprung up in the prairie. It's not near a major river. The Salt Creek runs through town, but it wasn't really close to the Platte River or the Missouri River. I mean, it's an hour drive from Lincoln to the Missouri River, but back in the day, that was a full day's travel. But Lincoln is definitely an interesting place, especially when you consider it's the state capital. If you look at the history of Nebraska, when it was the Nebraska Territory, Omaha was the capital then, and it probably should have stayed the capital when you consider the rivers and all that other good stuff. In the early 20th century, Volga German immigrants from Russia began showing up in this area, and that's when it started to really grow. These days, 80% of Lincoln, Nebraska's residents are considered white. Number 3, Scottsdale, Arizona. Again, not surprised. Scottsdale is just north of Gilbert, Arizona in the Phoenix metro area, and it shares a lot of the same features that Gilbert shares, including elderly people in knee socks, golf carts looking for a good early bird special. 80.3% of Scottsdale, Arizona's residents are identified as white. Number 2, Spokane, Washington. Now, whenever I do these videos, people always got to bring up race and stuff like that. Oh, look, there's no crime rate in these cities and they're white. We're going to hear all that stuff. It's going to be in the comment section below. It's ridiculous. But here's Spokane, Washington. They are extremely white and they have a very high crime rate. There's a reason the locals call this place Spokompton. The only thing Spokane, Washington and Compton, California have in common is a crime rate. Pretty high one. And no, Compton is not nearly as bad as it was in the 1990s. It still ain't good. If you don't know where Spokane is, it is on the eastern side of Washington State, not too far from the Idaho border. The first people to live in the area were the Spokane tribe, which the city is named after, obviously. In their language, that actually meant children of the sun. But they were living a good life here till explorers showed up and a fur trading outpost was set up, and Spokane grew out of that. These days, 81.4% of Spokane's residents are identified as white.
Sleep comfortably.
Wow.
With up to 12 hours of overnight protection.
Well, you think that's something. These, you see Nick Fuentes and Scott Adams, this is maybe another town he might like.
Wells Fargo has donated $50 million in support of
These
indigenous
towns are the most racist towns.
solar furnaces that
Good for
convert
them.
sunlight into household heat. Doing gets it done. Wells Fargo, the bank of doing.
Stop wasting money on iCloud. This innovative stick makes it easy to back up your smartphone.
Did you know that in Racine, Wisconsin, black residents are 12 times more likely to land in prison than white residents, and that a town in Arkansas is home to the modern-day KKK headquarters? Today, we will go over the 10 most racist cities in America. To determine which American cities are the most racist, we have examined personal experiences shared by many and analyzed the history, amount of hate crime, racial disparities, and economic statistics of each city. Remember, though, not everyone in these cities is racist. The many good people just happen to have one too many racist neighbors. Number 10. Danville, Illinois. In the 1800s and the early 1900s, Danville was quite notorious for racially motivated riots and street fights that typically ended in the deaths of many. One of such incidents is the 1883 Danville riot. Fast forward to over 100 years later, and although the street fights have ended, racism is still present in Danville. Sometime in May 2022, a group of protesters displayed a White Lives Matter sign the same day a gunman allegedly fueled by racism shot 13 people in a supermarket situated in a predominantly black neighborhood. Aside from the full-blown public displays of racism and violence against people of color, Danville's census figures also tell a tale of racial discrimination. Danville has one of the widest gaps between white and black residents in terms of education, income, and health in all of Illinois. For example, while 75% of all white families in Danville are homeowners, only about 31% of black families own their homes. Also, while about 20% of Danville's white population live below the poverty line, nearly 50% of the city's black residents are below that line. If the figures don't mean much to you, maybe the personal experiences of others will. A person of color who visited Danville with their family had this to say on TripAdvisor about a local inn. They stole my $150 deposit and told us our kind wasn't welcome. Very rude workers, very racist, and need to be shut down if you ask me. I will never, never, never stay at this location in Danville, Illinois again, and am going to file a lawsuit. Number 9, Rochester, New York. It is the 21st century, and from the Burning Man Festival to Louisiana Mudfest, party concepts are getting crazier with each passing second. The only kind of parties we didn't expect to exist are racist parties, but as it turns out, they are still around. In July 2022, a wealthy Rochester couple were accused of throwing a racist party, and this speaks volume about the alarming level of racism in the city. According to ACT Rochester's Hard Facts, the racial disparities in Rochester are deeper and broader than in New York and the U.S. as a whole. In Rochester, African American children are more than 4 times as likely as whites to be in poverty, and Latino children experience poverty at an alarming rate of more than 3.5 times that of white children. Furthermore, both African Americans and Latinos experience poverty at rates that are more than 3 times that of white residents. These alarming racial disparities also manifest in the life expectancy of residents. According to research from Rochester Area Community Foundation in Monroe County, your chances of dying before 65 are 46% if you are black, 52% if Latino, and only 26% if white. Needless to say, Rochester definitely earned its place on this list. Number 8, Fresno, California. Seeing how California is home to a total of 74 hate groups, making it the state with the most hate groups in all of America, it should not come as a surprise that one of its cities has earned a spot on this list. Being California's 5th largest city, Fresno is always in the spotlight, but for all the wrong reasons. Over the last 2 decades, more than 3/4 of the reported hate-driven crimes in Fresno County, 268 out of 355 incidents, have been perpetrated in Fresno, and the majority of these crimes were reportedly fueled by racism. For nearly as long as these hate-fueled crimes have persisted, people of color residing in Fresno have told the story of the racial divide in the city. To support this claim, Alan Autry, a former mayor of Fresno, used the term "a tale of 2 cities" when asked to describe the disparity in income, economic investments, property value, and quality of life between North Fresno, an area that is home to Fresno's white population, and South Fresno, the part of the city that is mainly populated by communities of color. Today, the census numbers show that only 13.76% of Fresno's white population are below the poverty line, as opposed to the 33.19% of the black population and 28.02% of the Hispanic. Number 7, Trenton, New Jersey. Trenton is the capital city of the U.S. state of New Jersey, and unfortunately, it is also the 7th most racist city in all of America. One of the many ways that racism rears its ugly head is racial profiling, and in March 2022, an unarmed black man identified as Jajuan R. Henderson, became a victim of this racial injustice after being shot and paralyzed by officers from the Trenton Police Department while grabbing an iced tea from a car. Aside from racial profiling and police brutality, racism in Trenton manifests in the form of systematic racism in housing, employment, and healthcare. For example, during the pandemic, studies showed that Hispanic New Jerseyans were most likely to have contracted the virus, and Black New Jerseyans were more likely to have died or been hospitalized from the virus than other residents. According to experts, these disparities exist to this day because systematic racism is deeply rooted in nearly all institutions in Trenton. Number 6, Peoria, Illinois. From an assistant fire chief who gained negative attention for using a racial slur on camera, to the president of an indigenous insurance company who came under fire for making a racist post on Facebook about the Super Bowl halftime performance, it's safe to say that racism is at an all-time high in Peoria. As is common in most racist cities, there is clear divide between the white population of Peoria and residents of color, most of whom live in the South Side, a low-income neighborhood reserved for residents living below the poverty line. The median family income for Southside residents is less than half of the average resident's family income, and only 32.6% of Black residents own their homes, compared to 76.1% of white residents. The good news, however, is that Rita Ali, the present mayor of Peoria, has welcomed the activities of the Joint Commission on Racial Justice and Equity, an organization founded to promote racial justice and equity within the county and city governments. Hopefully soon, the efforts of the organization will begin to make significant progress in the right direction.
I love an all-inclusive resort with a water slide.
Interesting, ain't it?
Zip lining.
Interesting. But we're supposed to be moving in the 21st century, but parts of America is not moving in the 21st century.
The efforts of the organization will begin to make significant progress in the right direction. Number 5, Racine, Wisconsin. What if we told you that in Racine and Wisconsin as a whole, Black residents are 12 times more likely to land in prison than white residents? Does this mean that white residents commit significantly fewer crimes? Probably not. According to experts, these deep disparities result from pervasive racial bias in the state's criminal justice system. If you thought the glaring racial disparities in Racine only affect the prison system, you could not be further from the truth, because even the high schoolers in this city are deeply affected. Nearly every year, students of color who attend the Racine Lutheran High School come forward to say that they have been harassed and dehumanized, but not much seems to have been done about it. On the aspect of numbers, things don't look good either, because census figures have shown that, on average, Black families make around $26,880, which is less than half of the $63,507, the average income of white families. That said, it's not hard to see why Racine is constantly ranked among the worst cities in the United States for people of color, especially African Americans, to live. Number 4, Naperville, Illinois. The fact that Illinois has 3 entries on this list makes you wonder what the hell is happening in that state. Well, a lot, as it turns out. In 2019, some Black patrons of the Naperville Buffalo Wild Wings were asked by an employee to move to a different table because a white patron felt uncomfortable sitting next to them. Barely a year later, in 2020, a woman called Naperville's Asian residents roving carpetbaggers during a council meeting. 2 years later, census figures prove that not much has changed where racism is concerned. For example, despite being a minority group in this city, the amount of Black people living below the poverty line in Naperville is almost 3 times the number of white residents below the line. In addition to this, research conducted by students of North Central College proves that Naperville is indeed a sundown town with policies in place to stifle businesses owned by people of color. Number 3, Milwaukee, Waukesha, West Allis, Wisconsin. Among the many ways to determine just how racist a city really is, the most efficient method is by asking the residents. With this in mind, Suffolk University conducted a survey of 500 residents of Milwaukee. When the results came in, it was discovered that while most white people voted excellent or good when asked to rate the city, 80% of black respondents rated the city fair or poor. It is also worthy of note that all of the survey's participants identified race relations as the second biggest issue plaguing the city. A deep dive into Milwaukee's history shows that it is the second most segregated city between black and white populations in all of America, further proving that racial relations in the metro area is indeed an issue that needs urgent attention. Having said that, it goes without saying that systematic and structural racism have deep roots in Milwaukee. In recent times, this racism has manifested in terms of maternal and infant mortality, educational levels, disabilities, and unemployment. You might think twice before entering Milwaukee, especially if you are a person of color. Number 2, Harrison, Arkansas. Previously known as a sundown town, where black Americans faced the threat of death if they were outside after dusk, depending on whom you ask, Harrison is either the most racist city in America or the second most racist city. And frankly speaking, between the race riots of the early 1900s and the influx of several white supremacist organizations during the late 20th and early 21st centuries, it is easy to see why the city has earned such an unsettling reputation. Not to mention the modern-day Ku Klux Klan is headquartered in Zinc, which is just a short 20-minute drive from Harrison. Although the year is 2022, a trip to Harrison would certainly give you a feel of 1844 because, according to census figures, 94.13% of Harrison's residents are white, and of the 8 black people living in Harrison, nearly 100% live below the poverty line. The numbers don't look good for other people of color either because, despite being minority groups in the city, they are more likely to live below the poverty line and less likely to be employed. Also, if you ever visit the town of Harrison, brace yourself for the not-so-warm welcome you would receive from the controversial billboards that read, "White Pride Radio," and "anti-racist" is a code word for anti-white. On the bright side, it's worthy of a note that Harrison's government and well-meaning citizens have been cooperating with Harrison Community Task Force on Race Relations, an organization set up in an attempt to reform the city's racist history. Number 1. Waterloo, Cedar Falls, Iowa. In 2018, a study carried out by 24/7 Wall Street, taking into account gaps in income, unemployment, and home ownership along racial divides, ranked the worst cities for black Americans to live. The Iowan city of Waterloo emerged at the top. According to the published results, no U.S. metro area has larger social and economic disparities along racial lines than Waterloo, Cedars Falls, Iowa. Going by the statistics cited by the report, the black unemployment rate in Waterloo is over 5 times the white unemployment rate. Furthermore, while 73.2% of white residents own their homes in Waterloo, only 32.8% of black residents can say the same. Although some sources have come forward to dispute these numbers, claiming that the gap is no longer as wide, one thing is certain: the racial disparity in the city of Waterloo remains a cause for concern. To this day, racism still plagues the city of Waterloo. In 2021, an incident involving derogatory terms being used on Waterloo East High School girls basketball players during a game confirmed that racial bias has rooted itself in the school system. But what about America's most dangerous cities? Check out the video we made on that topic right here. Who knows? Your city could be on the list.
Well, you think we're still in the 21st century? You think that's just the past? So, what do people got to say now? Look, these are northern cities. These ain't southern cities. These are Midwestern cities. Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa. Wow. But what I don't understand about the racist people is that there's other places to go. In fact, there's countries, if you want to just see just only white people, I'm going to give you something to go to.
My name is Kit Tantalos. My mother is Sorsha.
So you don't have to
She
see
sent me
another
here to come
person of
find you.
color, barely see another person of
She told
color.
me that once long ago you stood together
This is
against
for
the
these
forces of evil and
unconscious
defeated them.
racist people who are white.
The world needs you
This
again.
is for them. Not for the
Needs your
ones that are
magic.
not.
It's okay.
Today I'm going to tell you about the 10 countries with the highest percentage of white residents outside of Europe, and I'm sure some will surprise you. Welcome back to World According to Briggs. After we did our black and white series, I got a lot of requests to do the same thing for countries. I did a little research and decided to go with the whitest countries outside of Europe and Scandinavia. Now I have to throw in Scandinavia there because there's some people on this planet that don't think Norway, Sweden, and Finland are part of Europe. They are part of Europe, but some people scour YouTube videos for anything that they can consider a mistake and then try and turn it into their gotcha moment for the day. I really shouldn't complain about those people because in reality, they've really helped this channel grow. In case you don't know, comments, whether they're good or bad, help the channel grow. Now, what is considered a white person? We've used people with European origin to define the term white in this video. White obviously isn't a race, even though it's a race choice when you apply to be a night cook and boxing coach at Waffle House. I remember all the paperwork I filled out for the military. They're all, what's your race? White, black, Hispanic, other. Now for this video, we got our stats from the CIA website. And yes, they publish things like that. And when we could find the info, we cross-referenced that with the country in question's website. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, South Africa. This one should be a surprise to anyone that's really not up on their geography or their world politics over the last 30 years. I mean, most people are going to think Africa, shouldn't that be like 99% African people and 1% rich European white guys on safaris? The fact is, no, that's not how it is. South Africa has a complex and sometimes troubled racial past. For decades, they had a form of racial segregation that they called apartheid, and it wasn't until the 1990s that the government began to dismantle the oppressive system. They've got a long way to go, but Africa since the 90s has been working towards a better way of getting along, I guess you could say. More equal and just society. South Africa has a population of just about 60 million, with about 9% being considered white. Number 9, Mexico. Now, when you think of Mexico, you might think of tacos, sombreros, and tequila. And that's the stereotypes. Those are well-deserved stereotypes because you can get some incredible tacos there. Who doesn't love a sombrero? And they make really good tequila. But the fact is, Mexico's a pretty cool country. They've got some problems, especially recently with all their cartel issues. But did you know that Mexico is home to some of the world's most breathtaking beaches? That's right, you can find crystal clear water and white sand shores in places like Cancun and Tulum. If you're feeling adventurous, you could go all the way out to Cozumel, which is a little island out there, and swim with some dolphins. I will be doing that in 3 weeks. Now this one surprised me, and I kind of went against what I give people a hard time about. Your opinion doesn't matter when it comes to the stats. In my opinion, I think this one's a little off, because I know a lot of people that have moved down to Mexico. I grew up in Southern California, and a lot of people I know went down and started living in Mexico. Some of them are still there. Now, I know deep down the stats are closer to reality than my opinion, but still kind of weird to me. The population of Mexico is about 127 million residents, with about 10% being considered white. Number 8, Colombia. Another surprise. I like Colombia. I've been there a few times. The first time I went there was a little scary. It was late 80s, early 90s. But it's nothing like it was back then. They still have some issues, but nothing compared to the old days. I mean, right now, most people, when they think of Colombia, they probably think of drugs and cartels. And while that's true, the country has had their fair share of problems in the past with illegal drugs. There's so much more to this country than that. Back in the 90s and late 80s, you would not dream of becoming an expat in Colombia. These days, I wouldn't say it's common, but it's happening a lot more than you probably guess. The crystal clear waters of the Caribbean coast, lush green mountains of the Andes, there's a lot to see and do in this country. In 2021, Colombia had a population of 51 million, a little bit over, and of that, 20% are considered white. Number 7, Venezuela. Right next door to Colombia, we have Venezuela. Venezuela is a country located in South America that is known for its rich culture, stunning natural beauty, and unfortunately, its political and economic turmoil. Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare down there. Despite all the problems this country's faced in recent years, the people of Venezuela remain resilient. They're very optimistic people, and they got a lot of oil. They've had years where they're in the top 15 for the largest amount of oil produced, but generally they stay within the top 25. And they get a lot of oil spills too. There's actually a joke. Why did the Venezuelan go to the beach? To see all the oil wash ashore. A lot of oil industry industry Americans go down to Venezuela to live to help out. At least they did in past years. Not as much these days with all their political turmoil, but Venezuela has a population of 28 million, and of that, 43% are considered white. Number 6, Brazil. This one might surprise a lot of you. Probably surprised that they even made a list like this. But when you know their history, you realize a lot of Europeans colonized this land and continued to move there, especially during World War II. A lot of the German military that were able to escaped to Brazil. Brazil has a population of about 214 million residents, and of that, 47% are considered white. Number 5, Canada. The only thing that surprised me about this one is they're number 5 and not like number 2 or 3. I don't know if I'm going to the wrong places, but every time I go to Canada, I see nothing but white Canucks. Come to find out, that Great White North nickname has to do with snow and not people. In 2021, the population of Canada was a little over 38 million residents, and of that, about 70% is considered white. Number 4, the United States of America. That's right, here they are, the United States. Growing up in Southern California and spending a lot of time in the South when I was in the military and things like that, I would have thought this is impossible. There's no way that the United States has such a high rate of white residents. Then I moved to Oregon, I'm all, oh yeah, okay, so that makes total sense now. This is a great part of the video where I could probably tell you the history of the slavery thing and the colonization of the United States and the indigenous people, but since about 90% of my audience is from the United States, you already know that stuff. The population of the United States is 332 million residents, and of that, 75% are considered white. Number 3, Chile. Chile is known for a couple things: stunning landscape and their love of soccer or football, if you're not from the United States. From the Atacama Desert to the Andes Mountains to the Patagonia Glaciers, Chile's got it all. Did you know the Atacama Desert is the driest place on Earth? I always thought it was my stand-up comedy. The people of Chile are just as diverse as the landscape, with a mix of indigenous and European influences. The culture of Chile is really unique. The population of Chile is about 20 million residents, and of that, 88% are considered white.
Are you ready to Monday like a pro?
Interesting, isn't it?
Let's do this.
I'm kind of shocked too.
GoodRx
In a way, I'm
is
kinda shocked.
invaluable. I use it daily. I show the patient on their phone or on the computer.
Number 2, Australia. This one, not really surprised on this one. It started off as a British, prison colony. Well, I mean, the Aboriginal people were there first, but the settlers were mostly convicts. Yeah, that's the truth. Australia, once known as New South Wales, was originally planned as a penal colony. In October of 1876, the British government appointed Arthur Phillip, captain of the HMS Sirius, and commissioned him to establish an agricultural work camp there for British convicts. One thing leads to another, and we get Crocodile Dundee. The original name the British gave it is now one of their, territories or whatever. There's only a handful of good-sized cities in this country. It's a huge country. You got Brisbane, you got Sydney down New South Wales, and Victoria, you got Melbourne, and you got Adelaide in South Australia, and then Western Australia, you got Perth. Other than that, you might find little towns or small cities like Darwin on the north side of Australia, and then down south of Perth, you got Margaret River. Then one of my favorite places, Coober Pedy. This is a town where a lot of the residents live underground. Yeah, they tunneled their way into the hillside to get away from the heat. If you ever decide to move to Australia, keep one thing in mind. You gotta get some roo away. You spray it around your yard and the roos won't get in your yard and box your kids. Australia has a population of about 26 million residents, and 92% of them are considered white. Alright, before we get to number 1, if you guys haven't subscribed to this channel, I'd really appreciate it if you did. We're getting really close to 1 million subscribers, and I'd like to do it before summer. It doesn't cost you anything, it's just a click of a button. It really, really helps us out. Alright, on to number 1. And number 1, Argentina. Who saw this one coming? This one was a surprise. I don't know a ton about Argentina, but I really didn't think it was going to be almost 100% white. There are Scandinavian countries that don't have as high a percentage of white people that Argentina does. Argentina has a population of almost 46 million, and of that, 97% are considered white. Alright, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, and be nice to each other.
So, that was interesting. But see, so if you're a white person, the planet is yours. I mean, basically, anywhere you can go and get away from people of color, some places with people of color, you can go anywhere. So what's with all the animosity and hate and stuff like that towards other groups of people? But better yet, now before I get to the main course, this really troubled me. Well, let me show you what it is.
How can you go from a Christian making 6 figures a year to a kingdom builder making 6 figures a month?
Let me see where this
Better
came
question
from.
is, what would you do with that kind of wealth?
This is the reason
How
why
much could you sow
they
back
came
into
up
the kingdom?
with people that look like
What
me.
kind of life could you set up for your kids and your great-grandkid?
According to the Book of Mormon, after his resurrection, Jesus came to the Americas to preach to the Indians.
Banned Mormon cartoon extended version. This ought to be good.
Regardless of its Christian veneer, the basic tenets of Mormonism are in direct conflict with biblical Christianity. The following piece of animation, based directly on actual Mormon publications, highlights these major doctrinal differences.
Mormonism teaches that trillions of planets scattered throughout the cosmos are ruled by countless gods who once were human like us.
That's the first problem with Mormonism. They ain't no trillions of planets, bro. They ain't no trillions of planets. Let's keep it pushing.
They say that long ago on one of these planets, to an unidentified god and one of his
You guys are so entitled.
goddess wives, a spirit child named Elohim was conceived. This spirit child was later born to human parents who gave him a physical body. Through obedience to Mormon teaching and death and resurrection, he proved himself worthy and was elevated to godhood as his father before him. Mormons believe that Elohim is their heavenly father and that he lives with his many goddess wives on a planet near a mysterious star called Coma.
There are no wives in heaven, bro. Right? Matthew 22:30. There it is. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. Yeah, Mormonism, they got it all wrong, man.
Here, the God of Mormonism and his wives, through endless celestial sex, produced billions of spirit children. To decide their destiny, the head of the Mormon gods called a great heavenly council meeting. Both of Elohim's eldest sons were
So
there.
again, and you know, I actually had somebody, he used to be a Jew, but now he's a Christian, right? In my Patreon, came to the Discord and was like, doesn't the Bible say that Jesus became the Father? And he's like, I'm like, what? And then he found he found the scripture that he was looking at. And it was the Book of Mormon. How is Christ both the Father and the Son? Both the Father and the Son. So we know this is what they say. This is what Mormons believe.
One of the most fundamental doctrines of Mormonism is that the Godhead consists of 3 separate and distinct personages. So how does one reconcile that with Abinadi's teaching that Jesus Christ subjected the flesh to the will of the Father, being the Father and the Son? When read out of context.
See? Where in the Bible does it say Jesus is the Father and the Son? Nowhere. Who is Abinadi?
This could sound like Abinadi was advocating a Trinitarian view of the Godhead. But when read within the context of biblical and Mesoamerican cultures, it becomes becomes easier to see how Christ was given multiple titles. It was common practice in many ancient cultures to apply multiple characteristics to the same deity. This can be seen throughout the Book of Mormon, as the writers applied over 100 titles to Christ, each describing an aspect of his nature. So what sounds like multiple gods in one is really just a case of a prophet.
They sure do make this Jesus super white though. Like super like Nordic. You know what I'm saying? Not even a touch of Middle Eastern or anything like that in this dude, huh?
Explaining the power of the Messiah and his roles as both the fatherly creator and the obedient son. And now you know why.
They made Jesus look like Jack Harlow. Anyway, continuing.
Lucifer and his brother Jesus. A plan was presented to build planet Earth, where the spirit children would be sent to take on mortal bodies and learn good from evil. Lucifer stood and made his bid for becoming savior of this new world. Wanting the glory for himself, he planned to force everyone to become gods. Opposing the idea, the Mormon Jesus suggested giving man his freedom of choice, as on other planets. The vote that followed approved the proposal of the Mormon Jesus, who would become savior of the planet Earth. Enraged, Lucifer cunningly convinced 1/3 of the spirits destined for Earth to fight with him in revolt. Thus,
You see how they twisted the Bible?
on the surface, you've got this perfectly.
This is Lucifer.
Lucifer became the devil, and his followers the demons. Sent to this world, they would forever be denied bodies of flesh and bone. Those who remained neutral in the battle were cursed to be born with black skin. This is the Mormon explanation for the Negro race.
So this is how black people came about, by the way. They were neutral in the battle between Lucifer and God, and those that were neutral, they turned black.
The spirits that fought most valiantly against Lucifer would be born into Mormon families on planet Earth. These would be the lighter-skinned people, more white and delightsome, as the Book of Mormon describes them. Early Mormon prophets taught that Elohim and one of his goddess wives came to Earth as Adam and Eve to start the human race. Thousands of years later, Elohim, in human form once again, journeyed to Earth from the star-based Kolob, this time to have sex with the Virgin Mary, in order to provide Jesus with a physical body.
Ooh,
Yo!
this
Bro,
is crazy.
Mormonism is not Christianity, bro.
No.
Can I tell you something?
No.
It is not, bro.
After Jesus Christ grew to manhood, he took at least 3 wives, Mary, Martha, and Mary Magdalene.
Oh my God.
Wow. Book of Mormon, as it is presented here, sounds like some imaginative 12-year-old read the Bible and read the Bible and wanted to make a fanfic of it.
Oh my God.
This is insane. They say Mormon heaven, the women will be eternally pregnant, producing spirit babies. My wife doesn't want to go.
Through these wives, the Mormon Jesus, for whom Joseph Smith claimed direct descent, supposedly fathered a number of children.
So the beginning of the Mormon church was someone who believed they were the direct descendant of Jesus Christ because Jesus got women pregnant. Wow, interesting how they left that out of the Bible.
Before he was crucified. According to the Book of Mormon, after his resurrection, Jesus came to the Americas to preach to the Indians, who the Mormons believe are really Israelite. Thus, the Jesus of Mormonism established his church in the Americas as he had in Palestine.
Listen to how they got the Native Americans hollering, bro.
By the year 421 AD, the dark-skinned Indian as Lamanites had destroyed all of the white Nephites in a number of great battles. The Nephites' records were supposedly written on golden plates and buried by Moroni, the last living Nephite in the hill Cumorah. 1,400 years later, a young treasure seeker named Joseph Smith, who was known for his tall tales.
Wow. Also, okay, so Joseph Smith, a famous fictional writer, or it wasn't famous at the time, probably unsuccessful, but just a prolific fictional writer who also happened to be a direct descendant of Jesus Christ, because Jesus had wives and got women pregnant while he was here on earth. Also was the one to stumble across these ancient golden plates written by the last living member of this race of people that got wiped out by the Native Americans.
Claimed to have uncovered these same gold plates near his home in upstate New York.
Very magnificent.
He is now honored by Mormons as a prophet because he claimed to have had visions from the spirit
But technically,
world.
yes. Technically, they the same guy, no? Oh my gosh. So basically, Mormons believe, boy, that's disgusting. Mormons believe that Jesus slept with his, I can't even say the words. How can anyone, bro, I remember this one time some Mormon left a comment on my channel because I was like, Mormonism is a false doctrine, and he was like, how could you say that? I used to like your videos, but that was unfair. Bro.
Uncovered these same gold plates near his home in upstate New York. He is now honored by Mormons as a prophet because he claimed to have had visions from the spirit world in which he was commanded to organize the Mormon church because all Christian creeds were an abomination. It was Joseph Smith who originated most of these peculiar doctrines which millions today believe to be true. By maintaining a rigid code of financial and moral requirements and through performing
Oh wow, coffee, tea, cigarettes, liquor, Coca-Cola. See, this is how they can get them to be so effective. You know, they have to stay away from so many of the things that make us weaker. This is the thing, bro. It's why, you see the same thing in Islam, bro. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't do drugs. I mean, a lot of them do, no doubt, but they're not supposed to. You feel me? And so they stay away from a lot of the things because Satan is the one that put all of this stuff, this information in our minds to use these things to abuse them, and make us weak. So he knows what we need to avoid to be good, little foot soldiers.
Sacred temple rituals for themselves and the dead. The Latter-day Saints hope to prove their worthiness and thus become gods. The Mormons teach that everyone must stand at the final judgment before Joseph Smith, the Mormon Jesus, and Elohim. Those Mormons who were sealed in the eternal marriage ceremony expect to become polygamous gods in the celestial kingdom, rule over other planets, and spawn new families throughout eternity.
Wow.
The Mormons thank God for Joseph Smith.
They really have a lot to do with sex, huh? I
Yeah,
feel like
really.
that's always the mark of a false religion. They have all the, don't Muslims believe the same thing? They get like 40-something virgin wives when they go to heaven. How about what's the deal with women? What do women get, huh? What do women get for being faithful believers in these religions? You just supposed to be another one of a dozen wives, huh? That's kind of crazy. But notice how true Christianity is different. We will not be given to marriage at all. All of that is done with here on earth. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's crazy.
Who claim
Now you starting to see a picture. Watch this.
If you have $2,500 or more in savings, then I urge
And
you to listen
this
to
is
this message as
at the
it
end, the
extremely
entitlement
important to your
mentality.
future financial and personal well-being. On March 9, 2020.
I've never hidden my hate. I have lots of it, like enough to go around. Whenever somebody says that you sound very hateful or you sound like a victim, do me a favor, ask them of what? What do I hate? What am I a victim of? What do you want me to pretend that my grandparents weren't dispossessed of their land and my parents didn't grow up in poverty and that had no effect on me or the people around me? Do you want me to pretend that we've not been a victim of that? Huh? Or even better, do you want me to have love for the fact that that happened? You want me to have love for colonialism and love for apartheid and love for systemic oppression? What did you expect me to be filled with? What do you expect any indigenous person in this country to be filled with? What do you think they are going to be full of? They're sounding like victims. There's a system currently oppressing them. What do you expect them to sound like? But it's funny, you never want to ask that question. You just want you want us to all be like happy and merry and smile with you. Sick. Just.
Are y'all okay? Are y'all okay? Y'all said it. Listen, it's 2022, okay? Y'all gotta stop. It's not working. This delusion that you guys keep pitching of morality, that black people should not be fueled by hatred towards the group that has subjugated and abused them literally, legally, and physically since they were ever in contact up until this day, it don't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And we have all been in therapy. Black people got insurance now. We talk to our therapist. Our therapist lets us know that what y'all be saying is called gaslighting, okay? And we're not falling for it. Because if you are in this group and your only action initiative against the abuse is to tell the abused that they should not feel hatred, you equally as culpable in that abuse sustain. Okay? The only quiet people I can heal with are those willing to leave this group, come over here and be equally as hateful towards their own people and fight against all the abuse that they're enacting upon my group of people. We gonna need some hateration, holleration for your ancestry. Let's heal it.
And the crazy thing about this whole situation is that even in the present, they are not changing their actions. They are not doing or acting differently from how their ancestors acted. But they want to tone police us and tell us how we should feel, act, and react. This is a clear example of the expression wanting to eat your cake and have it. They want to be able to exhibit so much hate and negativity, oppress and suppress, and still have us love them at the same time. They operate on a level of delusion that I honestly did not think before now is possible for anyone to operate on. The caucasity, sometimes I just can't. How can you be showing me hate but want me to show you love? How can you be disrespecting me but want me to respect you? How can you be stealing from me but then when I ask for my stuff back, you act like I'm in the wrong for asking for my stuff back and it's not you that was in the wrong for stealing from me in the first place? Like, how can you be oppressing and suppressing me but you want me to be grateful and love you? Like, these folks have their knees on our necks and all we are saying is get your knees off our necks, but to these folks we are being hateful. How dare us ask them to get their knees off our necks? And that's what it all boils down to. When we talk about how their actions and their systems are negatively affecting us, to them they see it as hate. To them they see it as reverse racism. All of a sudden they become victims and they say they are being discriminated against. I swear nobody can convince me that they don't have like a centralized book or something where they get their ideologies and talking points from. Because whether it's the ones in America or the ones in Europe or the ones in Africa, they all have the exact same talking points. And the thing is, it's only going to get worse from here. For them or not for us. Because the more black people, African people, starts to come to the knowledge of self and starts to really understand the history that has been hidden from them and really starts to understand the system that we're living in, the more it's going to get worse for them. And we're already seeing this shift with the amount of people talking on TikTok. And all of this could have been long averted if these folks had just done what they needed to do immediately slavery and colonization ended. If they had just paid the people they needed to pay reparations, if they had just taken down the systems that are in place, still in place till this day 2023, oppressing and suppressing people, black people would have moved on and maybe now would have been living in this kumbaya society they want so badly but don't want to actively put in the work to get. But now they are stretching everything, and not only are they stretching the whole process, they are piling on top it. So not only are African people who are coming to the knowledge of self and
I'm gonna stop this. The reason why I said this because go back to this video.
The method to growing your tool by 64% in a matter of weeks can be found in your kitchen. Are you afraid your tiny buddy down there isn't long?
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so what I had to do for this channel is create an email list. The reason why is because due to the nature of the content of this channel, I don't know when the content is going to just mysteriously disappear or this channel will be shut down. The email list is just for the followers or the subs so that you know where these things are just in case this mysteriously happens. So just go down to the link in the description of the video, click join email list. put your email address in there, and boom, you're good to go. That means that I can also send you other information that I cannot post here on YouTube, and you'll also know where the channel is and where the content is in the event that it does disappear. Okay, let's cook. Okay, so this dude named Scott Adams, white dude, 65 years old, he created this comic strip named Dilbert. It's called Dilbert. He created it in the year of 1989, and this is a very popular little cartoon that's been in newspapers everywhere. I can remember Dilbert being in the paper for as long as I could read. Like this Dilbert was just super popular. It was always in a newspaper. It's called Dilbert. It looked dumb, whatever. I mean, people say it's funny. I don't even remember it being funny. Like, you know what I mean? But it's called Dilbert. Now, what happened is, this dude, Scott Dilbert Adams, he done pissed a fraction of the white community off. They're pissed off at this dude, Scott Dilbert Adams, for being vocal about how he would like to practice the religion of white supremacy. So he done pissed off his cousins and his people, you know, and people from the white community because of some things that he said. Now, they really pushed back on Dilbert, and let's make this clear. They pushed back on this dude, Scott Dilbert Adams, simply because white folks are upset. Not because not because black people are upset. You know what I mean? When black people push back, when we think for ourselves, when we bring things up, nobody listens or respects anything that we have to say. So, you know, he's getting pushed back because he pissed people off from his community, and they're upset about the way that he wants to practice his religion of white supremacy. Now, let's make it clear. They're not upset that he's a white supremacist, because they are too. The people who are pissed off at Dilbert, who are pushing back at Dilbert or Scott Dilbert Adams, they are white supremacists too. They just choose to practice it differently than him. And sometimes, you know, these people, they get in these big snowball fights. So this is what happened. It's something called the Rasmussen poll. Never really heard of it myself. You know, I don't, you know what I mean? But, so they asked some black folks how they felt about this statement or this slogan that these white people have called, "It's okay to be white." They asked some black people this, okay? Now, "It's okay to be white" is just some fragile slogan that some white American person came up with. You know, they like to come up with things, you know, whatever. I guess it means, basically, that with all the evil that we have done in American history, with all we stole, all the people we took advantage of, all the chattel slavery that we made money off of, all the patents that we stole from black people, all the laws that we created to progress ourselves and oppress black Americans, it's still okay to be white. Now, I don't know how this slogan came about totally, but I would assume that some white youth started studying, you know, researching and doing homework, real authentic studying, and found out that they pretty much have everything as a handout or from theft or by manipulation of black oppression. I'm thinking that's what happened. And so the kids probably started to get a little sad and depressed, and they started questioning their parents. And they say, you know, we got to do something about this. So somebody came up with this "It's okay to be white" slogan, you know, I guess to pep them up or whatever. I would guess that's why they did it. So back to this Rasmussen poll, they asked some black people. Yeah, I'm saying it. I think I'm saying it right. I don't even know. This poll. So anyway, they asked some black people, right, how they felt about this "It's okay to be white" slogan. And nearly half of the black people they asked said that they don't agree that this slogan is okay. They don't like this slogan. They disagree with it or whatever. So this guy, Scott Dilbert Adams, when he heard the results to this poll, he got pissed off. He got upset. He's angry at this. This is what he said. Okay? If nearly half of blacks are not okay with white people, that's a hate group. I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people, because there's no fixing this. So this dude, Scott Dilbert Adams, he also blamed black people for not focusing on education, and he also said, "I'm also really sick of seeing video after video of black Americans beating up non-black citizens. So clearly here, this guy, Scott Dilbert Adams, is a hardcore white supremacist. He has no respect for the narrative of black people in America, so that means that he has no respect for our humanity, common mentality in America, but it's just not the cool thing to say amongst, people in their communities. You're not the cool guy if you say things like that. You can think it, but you're not the cool guy to say. You can act out on it, but you're not the cool white person to say it, okay? So after this dude, Scott Dilbert Adams, made these statements, the part of the white community that chooses to practice the religion of white supremacy different than him, they went absolutely nuts. So all of these newspapers across the United States that had his Dilbert comic strip in their papers, they immediately pulled all these papers out. Some of these big time papers like the Washington Post, USA Today, the LA Times, the Cleveland Plain Dealer, they all said, we're going to remove Dilbert. When Dilbert, this dude Scott Dilbert Adams, when he was asked how many papers still carried his strip, he said none. Okay? Now, these big time papers that I name here, like the LA Times and the Washington Post, they control the narrative. They're the big wigs in the media, the USA Today, they're the big wigs in the media. But these papers also have hundreds and hundreds of like junior varsity, JV newspapers under them. And they pull Dilbert as well if Dilbert is in any of those papers, okay? They control the narrative. So
why did I play this video? Well, I wanted to show who Scott Adams was, and the reason why I played the other video because of the mindset of the spiritual mindset of the in the closet racist in the spiritual religion, and there's other people that feel like this in areas of the country that think of black people like that. Another reason why, because I had to show the stats on the other video, is because people feel like they're losing, they're going dwindle out, be like mixing with the race. So this was to people. Now I know everybody, black or white, don't think like this. I'm talking to the ones who put this in their head, put this in their kids' head, say this around the coffee table, say this around the bar. These are ones that's in the closet that they won't directly say it in front of a multitude mixture of people. They say only around people who look like them or white who come out of the closet with it. So this was the reason why I made this video for that, to show you that if you feel like that, you get certain cities to go to, and then show you the disparities throughout the United States, what other people had to be subjugated under people that look like you. But at the same time, you got other places in the world that you can still go to and maintain not looking at a person of color. Just certain areas you won't have to look at a dark-skinned black person, brown person, whatever, unless you choose to go in the city or go apart across the town. But you can stay racist where you at, and really to let people know of color that stay away from these areas. Stay away from them and stay away from these people who think like them. And you see the result. And I'm going to do a video about what is the cost of a sundown town. You're going to see towns, with these sundown towns, there's hardly no life left in them. You're going to see some of these sundown towns, they're not progressing because they sabotage black residents and other people. It's going to be, and they're going, ladies and gentlemen, those who are of different races, they're going to suffer economically because America's already under economic oppression. So you think that even though people in the city going to suffer, hope that and get this orgasmic feeling that it's going to be the blacks and minorities going to die out and not have and be locked out opportunities. Your sundown towns is also going to be locked out and with opportunity. So it's going to come back and bite you in the end. because what you did to the people that look like me. Because you want to preserve your supremacy in religion, and you want to preserve your supremacy in your ways, and you indirect and this is ones who are directly prejudiced to the indirectly is prejudice. I made this video just for you because I want to let you know. I said, yeah, we're not coming into your territories. We're trying to stay away from you, so you can go out and be in your people that look like you, and you don't have to look at people that look like myself. And let's see how far it goes economically, and we won't do business with you. How you like that? Well, anyway, that's all I have to say for this video. But yeah, I hope someone like it out there, share it. This is the reality. I wanted to show this because I want to send a message to them, to Scott Adams and Nick Fuentes of the world. This video is for you and the people who think like you. This don't apply to, again, this don't apply to all white people. This is the reason why I'm doing this. It's to the racist ones that are among them that got this insecurity about them, and that they practice it, and they hide behind their religion, and they hide behind their ways. That was the purpose of this video, and I hope it educates somebody and maybe change someone's life, that we are the people, we're waking up. And see, let me say before I go, the Most High, not the one that they think is the Most High, opens up all people's eyes, all knowledge, and He has favor with every race of people. So he know how to punish the Mormons and all these other people. They got a rude awakening company. A lot of these religions like them. You got a rude awakening company because of what you put out. Now it's been exposed. All right then. Take care. Y'all be blessed.